For the microbiology fermentation project, I have everything I need except for the yogurt, milk, and a thermometer. So I'm gonna go to H-E-B real quick and get all of the things I need. Now we have everything that we need. We're gonna call yogurt A has these live bacteria, and yogurt B has these live bacteria. First order of business is to wash our hands and thoroughly clean our cookware. I wash the dishes using hot water and Dawn dish soap. Since this pot has some cooked on stains, I'm going to be using this to sterilize the lids in the jars and the black one to sterilize the milk. Now that I have all the jars separated, I'm going to boil the water for 10 minutes. Heat the milk to 85 to 90 degrees Celsius and to stir frequently. I'll be using this spoon that I cleaned earlier to stir frequently and this thermometer to check the temperature. The red pot has 1 inch of water with the jars separated inside of it. The water will boil for 10 minutes, which will sterilize the jars. The black pot has half a gallon of whole milk that we are heating up to 185 degrees Celsius. Be sure to keep the lids on both pots. It just started boiling, so I set a timer for 10 minutes. Be sure to stir the milk frequently to prevent it clumping to the bottom of the pot. To set out the jars, I'm preparing this clean surface with these disinfecting wipes. The directions on the wipes say to leave the surface wet for 4 minutes to ensure the surface is cleaned. This sink has been prepared with 1 to 2 inches of cold water to cool off the hot milk whenever it has reached the temperature. Now that the jars have been boiling for 10 minutes, we are going to turn off the heat and let it sit. Once the milk has reached the desired temperature, I transferred it to the cold water in the sink to cool off. While we let the hot milk cool down to 55 degrees Celsius, we carefully take out the hot jars onto the clean surface. We have to be careful not to introduce any unwanted bacteria to the inside of the jars. Be sure to put the lids on the jars loosely. As the instruction says, I listed 3 jars yogurt A and 1 jar yogurt B. After stirring the yogurt with a clean fork, I put 1 tablespoon of yogurt A into each of the 3 A jars. I cleaned the tablespoon and fork thoroughly and transferred 1 tablespoon of yogurt B into the B jar. Now that the milk has cooled down to 55 degrees Celsius, I will transfer the milk to the 4 jars. I don't have a funnel, I'm going to transfer the milk with this spoon into the 4 jars. I feel like the bacteria in the yogurt will mix better if it's shaken. I'm going to shake 1 of these jars and I'm going to label it that I shook it. The rest of the jars will not be shaken. I want to test whether the yogurt will taste any different if the jar is shaken. The other 3 jars will not be shaken. I am currently heating up water to 50 degrees Celsius. And while I do this, I'm going to put away the yogurt to taste test later. You can't see it very well in this video, but I put foil on the top of the yogurt cups. After I put foil on them, I labeled the bags yogurt A and B. This is so I won't get them mixed up. I placed them back into the fridge. I forgot to record myself pouring the warm water into the cooler. I added enough water to reach about 2 inches from the jar's lids. I immediately closed the cooler lid and let it sit for 3 hours. Doing this, it kills potentially harmful bacteria from growing in the yogurt. After sitting in the cooler for 3 hours, I transferred the jars to the fridge to sit overnight. Since I don't like yogurt, I got my grandmother to taste them for me. Thank you, Mimi.
So what do you want me to do?
Taste the original first. Okay. And then taste the new version of it. After sitting in the fridge overnight, yogurt B was very watery, but still had a few chunks at the bottom.
It's not as sweet, but it's okay. The texture's the same. Okay, which way I go first?
The original. It's strawberry. And then see if the strawberry flavor carried along.
Oh, that's basically what I'm trying to taste.
That and the texture.
It's very bland, strawberry, but the texture's the same.
The flavoring of the strawberry yogurt obviously didn't carry along well. But the chunks that were at the bottom of the jars had similar texture to the original yogurts. The jar that I shook up had less sediment at the bottom, but the consistency was similar to yogurt. The jars didn't necessarily have the same smell as the yogurts. They had more of a milky smell. I think that if the jars sat in the fridge for another day or two, they would have been less watery. All of the jars had similar appearances, but the jars that were labeled A, they had more of a pink tint to them. In conclusion, these questions should be answered. Question 1. What is fermentation and how is it used to make yogurt? As defined in the textbook on Pearson, fermentation is the enzymatic degradation of carbohydrates in which the final electron acceptor is an organic molecule. ATP is synthesized by substrate-level phosphorylation, and oxygen is not required. Fermentation is used in the production of yogurt by the active bacteria, also known as the starter culture, that was previously listed in the video. The bacteria converts the sugars present in the milk into lactic acid, causing the pH of the milk to drop. Due to the drop in pH, the milk hardens, creating a thicker consistency. The yogurt we buy from the store has lots of added sugars and flavorings, so that's why the new yogurt we created has a bit of a sour taste. Question 2. What do you think affects the smell, taste, and firmness of a yogurt product? I think many factors have an effect on the way the new yogurt may taste, smell, and feel. For example, the bacteria. The active bacteria in the original yogurts, A and B, were slightly different. This makes sense because yogurt B was a little more chunky compared to yogurt A. Another factor that might affect the yogurt is the time the jars were allowed to ferment. Like I said earlier, the yogurt might have hardened more if left in the fridge for longer. The last example I will list is the additives. Yogurt has copious amounts of added sugars, which is why the yogurt we buy tastes so sweet. They also have flavorings, like how yogurt A was strawberry flavored and yogurt B was vanilla flavored. Question 3. If you made a yogurt culture using a starter that did not have live bacteria in it, what do you think would happen to the yogurt culture? If the original yogurt we used did not have live and active bacteria, I think the new yogurt we created in the jars would be just plain milk. This is because the yogurt we are creating needs live and active bacteria to start the fermentation process. Without these bacteria, there would be nothing in the jars to create lactic acid and essentially make the yogurt. This further disproves the theory of spontaneous generation of microbes.
I tried.
Like my ears, Oh. Oh. That's chunky. I think many factors may have an effect.